Welcome to Industrial Bytes, a collection of bite-sized conversations from the industrial world. Join Industry 4.0 thought leaders at Honeywell as they explore industry IoT connected technology, big data, and more. Listen to them take on topics that are reshaping the way the world works. Now, let's tune in. Today we explore best practices to building future forward products in the Industry 4.0 age. How do you build products in the industry that is transforming every day? How do you build long-lasting products when the technology available today is outdated tomorrow? How do you bridge the gap between fulfilling an unmet customer need while also keeping pace with an ever-evolving industry? Joining us is Garrett Rysko, Product Leader, Operations Performance Management at Honeywell.
I would say, well, other than some excellent tea that I just had from British Columbia, what gets me up in the morning is, I would say it's like two things. It's how is new technology impacting some of the products that we see and use today. Like, for example, I was blown away just the other day. It's like 2 or 3 days ago. We get to enjoy the awesome over-the-air updates from Tesla, and it's like, when has our car ever been able to do something like this? I mean, it's unknown territory right now, and it's usually been good until a few days ago. There's a guy, his name is Alec from California. He bought a car from a third-party dealership that was a Model S, and it had the self-driving car package, just like worth $8,000, and it was listed to have that on there when he bought it, and he bought it from the dealership. All was well, and a couple weeks into driving it, Tesla got back to him and said, we did a software audit of your car, and new buyers of this car aren't allowed to have the autonomous driving package, so we disabled it on you. Like, when have you ever had somebody rip, normally you can't go into a car and rip out all-wheel drive or regenerative braking. So it's like, there's positive sides to all this technology impacting our cars, but like, I've never seen this, there's also, potentially kind of crazier side effects as well. This is just 2 or 3 days ago. So it's kind of a story that came out in Jalopnik, and it's really amazes me the interesting ways that technology is being applied to products in some ways that we'd never thought of before as well.
So it sounds like you bring a lot of entrepreneurial spirit to the table, especially when you see innovation just popping up all over the place.
Yep.
And then you come right inside of Honeywell, and it's almost like you're trying to apply it to the thought leadership here as well.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about how you approach differentiated Industry 4.0 products in a large company.
Yeah, I would say I get the opportunity to train other product managers in companies like Disney and Concur and Amazon and Google, and they kind of ask that same question as well. They're like, I'm at a huge company. How do I make a difference? How do I really change? I want to build these awesome future-facing products, and what can I do as a product manager? And usually I tell them, avoid the McClane mentality. So John McClane, Die Hard. He's a badass. He shoots first and asks questions later. He doesn't take no for an answer, and that's great when you're like trying to kick Hans Gruber off Nakatomi Plaza. But that's not so good when you're a product manager and you have hundreds of people that rely on your decisions that you make every day. And like, he goes with his gut, but you can't do that as a product manager. I'm sure everyone has had that experience of like, I work with this one product manager. I don't know where he made his or her decisions from. Like, did he eat avocado toast this morning? And that's like why it's driving a decision. So I would say the way that I approach differentiated products is a data-driven approach. Like, it's great. It's nice to have that gut instinct, but you really need like data to back it up. Like, if you were to take a note from the Amazons or from some of the other people out there, it's anyone can present an idea to anyone high up in the company, like all the way up to the L13s, everyone up at the top. But you have to come with a data-driven approach. You can't just be like, man, I've got this awesome idea. I can't wait to excite you guys. And they're like, okay, that's great, but show me some data. So I would say that's one way that I approach differentiated products, coming with a data-driven approach. And the second one is like, I want every product myself and my team builds to have that hindsight is 2020 look. Like, man, of course rideshare. That's like the most obvious idea. Like, now that you look back at it, well, yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I want every one of our products to be like that. Like, I can't believe someone didn't think of that before. Why didn't I think of that previously? Like, a really good example, most of the really amazing products that we have weren't like these revolutionary ideas where like Tony Stark, he's going into the cave and he's going to burst out 2 years later with his Iron Man suit. They're more evolutionary than revolutionary. So if you take Docker, for example, I'll look on this one, 1982, there's a concept called jails in Unix. Almost identical to what Docker is today. In 2000, FreeBSD jails. 2005, another form of jails, double check that, easy jails. And then as you know, in 2013, I believe, Docker was the next iteration of that. And it was just an iterative approach. The original 2000 version of jails was like a 9-page quick start guide. Then it got down to a 5-page, and now it's just Docker run hello. It's just an evolutionary approach that someone's like, I just want to make this a little bit better, a little bit easier.
So how do you spot a strong product manager in the midst of all this?
Sure. So usually I tell the product managers that I work with to focus on 4 things, or at least I'm, kind of judging them on 4 things, I guess, if you will, or trying to spot these 4 kind of ideals in a good product manager. And those 4 are design, technology, domain, and business. So the aptitudes in those 4. And what do I mean by that? Technology is probably the easiest one, like making sure to know where the trends are going, making sure we're not like falling behind, going where the puck is going, sort of thing. Or at least being able to work with someone that has that understanding. And having a bit of the acumen, so you're like, I'm not getting the wool pulled over my eyes. Like, is this a 9-month feature or a 3-month feature? On the design side, it's building a winning product that people really love and they want to buy and they want to invest in. And then from the business and domain side, those are kind of the more classical product manager skills, still extremely important. The domain is I know my customer. I know exactly why they wake up in the beginning of the day and what makes their day-to-day important. And the business side is the market financials. It's the total addressable market, segmented addressable market, how we make money, how it fits into our product market fit. So I usually kind of judge them on those 4 aspects. And maybe fairly or unfairly, there's no one that has all 4 of those. That's a unicorn. You're like, good luck finding one of those. It's very rare. If you can get like 2 or 3 of those, you're doing great, and you can rely on someone else for the 4th. But usually if somebody has 2 of those, then I call them a partial product manager, and they usually fit into one of 4 camps. So if you have, let me make sure I get this right. If you have a business and domain kind of aptitude, then you're more of like a deal chaser. So deal chasers, they're the ones that like, I'm going after the big whales. These huge whales have like these very different product needs. I'm going to chase after this one today. And then a month or 2 later, there's another big whale. I'm going to go turn 45 degrees and chase after that one. And that leads to like a lot of bespoke products. So I try to have my product managers, like, if as best as they can, kind of think more holistically of what they want their product portfolio to look like. Because if they chase after those big whales, it's going to look like a bespoke portfolio. It's kind of pockmarked, if you will. The second one is if you have the domain and design expertise, then you're more of like a super support kind of ticket taker. So like I've got these support tickets that are coming in. I'm like a sustaining product manager, and I want to make sure like my product kind of looks like incremental features as sustaining tickets. And then if you are business and technology, then you're kind of like the classical waterfall-y requirements writer. I'm going to write a bunch of I don't have those design UX people to help pull me along. So I'm going to write these long spec sheets, and I'm going to be like, all right, this is the perfect product, and I'm going to throw it over the fence to my development team, and at the end of however long it is, they're going to bequeath the world with this golden goose of a product, this perfect product that I'm going to gift unto the world. And unfortunately, usually you almost always miss the mark. That's been the new, more recently new agile attempt at like get VOCs as early as possible, get the customer input. Rarely are you lucky enough to just like, I made this perfect. I went into the similar cave analogy, and I came out and like, here's this phenomenal thing for you, world. So getting the customer feedback as soon as you can. And then the 4th and final one is if you have the design and technology kind of aptitudes. Those are like the startups in Silicon Valley. Those are like the wouldn't it be cool if ... kind of product managers. Like they're in stealth mode for for X amount of months, and they're like, well, we can't talk to the customers. Or when they do go out and talk to the customers, they're like, I know my product is so good. Like there's confirmation bias in there. They're going to lead their customers on the answers that they really want. So you'll often see them kind of starting with features rather than starting with the problems that they're trying to solve. And unfortunately, without that business background, they might get a product out the door that doesn't sell.
What are some of the best practices you have used in your day-to-day to build valuable products?
I mean, there's a lot. I know we don't have a ton of time, so I'm probably just going to touch on a few of them, 2 or 3. I'm going to pull one from like the mid 2011 or so. I'm going to grab one from the 80s, and I'm going to grab one from just a year or 2 ago. And these are actual things that I use day to day and find very, very valuable. And I'll start with the most important one. The most important one that's often this is like you can attribute this one thing to the success of Uber, Airbnb, Netflix, a lot of major companies. And it's a technique that Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, created. This was before Netflix existed, and it was 2009 or 2010. I'm sure I'm going to butcher it. And he's like, okay, I just want to go watch a movie. I want to enjoy it with my family. This is that 2020 hindsight thing I mentioned. Very obvious now looking back at it. But he's like, okay, I want to go watch a movie. What are all the steps that I need to do to enjoy this? He's like, okay, I have to get my family, get them in the car because they want to pick a movie too. We have to drive to the video rental place. We have to fight over the movie that we want to watch. Okay, well, I'll pick that. I want to see something else. Okay, we'll fight over. We have to bring it up to the front desk and pay for it. We have to drive back. And he mapped all those hassles and created a hassle map. And as it turns out, there are 14 things he had to do to finally enjoy his movie. And he mapped that out for his persona. And he's like, okay, why is this so complicated? Why is this so dang hard? So instead of, okay, he looked at it as like, I just want to remove a few of these hassles. I just want to make it a little bit easier. Can I get from 14 down to 9? And he did that by the original Netflix. Maybe some people don't even remember anymore with shipping DVDs. It's like, can we just get away from the driving, to and fro aspect? So he made it just a little bit easier. And people are, as you know, are looking for that easy button. And it was addictive. And he's like, okay, can I make it just a little bit easier than that? Can I get from 9? I believe he got it down to like 5, and that was the streaming service that we enjoyed today. And he's like, can I make it even a little bit easier? Instead of having to choose which video I wanted to watch, it recommends you things based off of your previous shows that you watch. And now you sit down, you like plop down on the couch, turn it on, you just binge watch for hours, and it auto plays the next one. And that was his technique to creating a hassle-free experience. And all the greats, I mean, you look at Uber, and it's very easy to understand now, like, oh, well, I don't want to have to figure out the street corner that I'm on. I want to do this. They just want to make a simple kind of hassle-free experience. And you'll find a lot of the kind of the excellent people doing that, like the Steve Jobs, the Jeff Bezos, the Michael Bloombergs, like they see successful products through the eyes of their customers. And like, you really have to understand your customers' pain points. You have to figure out who are the personas that you're addressing. So like kind of all the best practices for a product manager. What are their day-to-days? I'm going to go visit that customer. These things are like living organisms. A really good example is being able to like get into the shoes of your customers. There is a Netflix product manager, former Netflix product manager, a friend of mine, and she's since moved on to Pinterest, and she might have gone somewhere else by now. She was responsible for the India rollout of Netflix, and well ahead of time, from the product manager expertise standpoint, she had to get into the shoes of her customers. So her and her team, they went out and they visited India, and they're like, how do they consume entertainment? How do they consume video, audio? What's their day-to-day lives? And they were just going to roll out Netflix just like they do to any other region. But once her and her team, I think they spent like almost 2 months there, they saw the day-to-day lives of people, and they're like, there's no way we can roll out Netflix as we have it today to this region. No, there will be no uptake. No one will watch it. Because, from going and sitting down and grabbing dinner with people to riding on the trains and riding on the buses and the long car rides. And if you've ever been to Bangalore, it's insane out there. And traffic, it takes a long time to get to where you're trying to go. A lot of traffic. And not a lot of people have that leisure time at home. And what they found out is most of the time, people have almost no data access, and they're on the train the bulk of their time. And they're like, if we want to capture these viewers, we need to have an offline viewing mode. So from her and her team, as we have it now, we have offline. You can download Netflix into the appropriate app that you're using, and that was from that team because they needed to deploy to the India region. So they were truly in the shoes of their customers and understanding what their pain points were. Once they got there, boots on the ground, they saw what those troubles were. They were able to figure out right away I can see what kind of product I need to deploy. So I'd say creating a hassle map, and there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, is one very, very valuable aspect that I do in my day-to-day for any products I'm creating. And I mentioned there were 3. So that one was from 2010, 2011. There's another one. This is like a vital, fundamental thing that you should have in every toolkit. And most people know it by other names, but it's from the early 80s from Noriyako Kano. It's called the Kano model. Mr. Noriyako Kano from Japan, he set out to say, how do I know when a product is ready to ship to the market? Do I just throw some darts and it's good to go? Or is there some quantifiable way that I can tell that my product is ready? And this one we use all the time. People might have heard the terms like table stakes or differentiators. That all originally came from Kano and his Kano model. And he bucketized products into 5 major groups. And I recommend all my product managers do this, at least have it in their minds. And those 5 groups are dissatisfiers, satisfiers, delighters, and then unimportant and undesired. So the corollary of dissatisfiers are table stakes. If I were to use that car example that I mentioned previously, a dissatisfier in a car would be something like, I don't have a steering wheel. Like, whoa, I bought a car. I wasn't looking for steering wheel on the list of features for my car. I was just expecting it to be there. Those are table stakes for your products, or the inverse of that is table stakes for your products. You can't have any dissatisfiers. You better have brakes. You can't be missing the steering wheel, for example. So no dissatisfiers or all of your table stakes to be able to play that game. The second category is satisfiers. Satisfiers are like the sunroof on your car, or the second cup holder, or the third cup holder. Every one of these, people are linearly more interested in your product and will typically linearly pay more for your product. So you want to track down and see how many satisfiers that you have, or your must-haves, if you will, in today's day and age. So satisfiers are the more you add, the happier people are, and the more they'll pay more money. And then differentiators, that's the car can fly, or it has gull-wing doors, or something crazy that you're like, I wasn't expecting this, or I never even thought of this, but now that I've bought it, I can never buy another car. I have self-driving now. I'm never going back to those old internal combustion engines. This is the thing that I came for. I didn't even know that I wanted it, but I have to have it from now on. So every product should have at least one magic moment or delighter with them in their product release. And then the last 2 are not unimportant, even though they have the names, unimportant and undesired. Undesired is a fancy way of saying, that's a bug. That's an unintended feature. So don't have any of those. But unimportant are actually extremely important. Unimportant are, you've probably heard of the 80-20 rule, or it's also known as the power distribution law or the Pareto principle. It basically says, make sure I get this right, 80% of the time your customers spend on a product are focused on 20% of your features. So that means you have 80% of your features that you're still supporting. You still have maintenance. You're still writing documentation for. This is like the classic Word problem. That's why Google Documents Google Docs, online docs, was able to blaze past Office 365 in their online experience, because Word has a bevy, hundreds and hundreds of legacy features that, you turn that one thing off, someone out there in Belize is going to complain. So you've got to be a grim reaper on your products too. You've got to know what's unimportant and what can we get rid of. So back to the Kano model, when he bucketized all those things, he was able to figure out okay, I have this many satisfiers people are going to pay some more money for. I've got a couple delighters kind of spaced out through my experience. I've got the unpackaging, I've got the user experience, I've got the whole service design, and I don't have any dissatisfiers, or I have all my table stakes. I think this product is ready to ship. And unfortunately, or fortunately, because it keeps us gainfully employed, you're not done there. This is also a living organism, because back in 2011 or 2012, when we had backup cameras in the car, those were certainly a delighter. I bought my BMW, nobody else has this. I can look. This is amazing. This is a delighter, most certainly. But today, if I go out and buy a Ford Focus and it doesn't have a backup camera, certainly if I buy a luxury car, I'm like, whoa, this was I thought this was table stakes. So unfortunately, customers' expectations are that oftentimes delighters move to satisfiers, and eventually satisfiers will move to table stakes. And now you have to include those backup cameras in your car. And another interesting thing about satisfiers on how they're linearly better for your products. And I like to draw the analogy with Lululemon. They're a great example. Like, satisfiers should always tie to the brand of your product. Sometimes your brand motto could be quality. Sometimes it could be cost, and there's a whole bunch of other things that you want to be like, I want to show that every single thing in your experience of my product ties to quality. Like, my satisfiers are tied to that brand motto. So I'm wearing I just happen to be wearing Lululemon right now. It's one of my favorite shirts. They did not pay me for this. But like, when you walk into their stores, everything exudes quality. It's not just the product itself. When you touch the shirt, you touch the pants, you're like, man, this feels like a really well-made product. It's from the tags on their clothes, like a thick cardboard. It feels good. It looks good. The decoration in the store exudes quality. The store itself looks like really well built and sturdily built. Even the receipt that you get at the end of the day is short and it's right to the point. Like, even the people that are working there, like, man, are they all athletes? Like, where did they hire these people from? Like, everyone like looks like they belong to work, like they belong working there. And that kind of ties back to service design a little bit, but that really says like every satisfier that you have should add into whatever the brand motto is for your product, and cost or quality or whatever it is.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So are robots going to take all of our jobs next year?
Yep. No, I'm kidding. No. I would say Shivan Zilis said it best. She was a partner at Bloomberg, and now she works for, I believe, Neuropath. And she said, if this is a 9-inning stretch in AI and machine learning, we're in inning 1 right now. We're just getting started. Really, where we're going to see the biggest changes, robots aren't taking all of our jobs, and not for a while. But there's definitely a need. Like, if you look at not to take all of our jobs, to help out, I should say. If you look at Japan, there's an aging workforce. They need a lot of assistive help. So where we're going to see a lot of machine learning, AI, kind of futurology, if you will, is on the simpler things, the simpler day-to-day things, neuro-linguistic programming, like being able to talk into the thing that I'm using. Rather, like, I can't see it as well anymore. I'm getting older. So like those smaller apps, the smaller day-to-day things. So and we look at this as well from our product perspective. Like, I want to have assistive plants rather than, like, I'm not going to have a fully automated plant. That's going to, we talk to it. It'll be amazing, like, years from now. But really, we're just looking at, like, the next 5 to 10 years. Like, I just want to help people out, I want to assist them. Like, we have, within our products, we know we have an aging workforce. We have that strong domain background. And we know that 50% of the subject matter experts are going to be retiring in the next 5 years. So it's critical that we're able to not only assist the ones that are still there and going to remain to be there, the new ones that are coming, if they backfill at all, and most importantly, being able to transcribe the knowledge of those years and years of subject matter expertise that are in our like, for myself, production management, going into plants and instrumenting everything from end to end, being able to take that knowledge and transcribe it down, because they're not going to be around for all that much longer, and it's just not sexy anymore. As much anymore going into those businesses. So being able to have kind of that assistive approach rather than a fully automated factory of the future. And I would also say kind of humans are like uniquely qualified to do this. So like the psychology part of the equation I don't think is going anywhere. There's a study called the Pygmalion effect. Have you heard of that before? So it's a Rosenthal experiment, and it's a well proven experiment that anytime, like, I sat down in the room, I'm like, I've seen Bobby before. Bobby is just another guy that I remember that's a phenomenal speaker, or a phenomenal person that I've worked with before, and just right away I click with him. Maybe it's because like some preconceived notion, and like based off of that, every future interaction. I'm like, Bobby's gonna crush this thing. Bobby's gonna do great. And then then you feel that as well, and you're like, wow, this person like kind of recognizes my skill, and then you're gonna push yourself to do even better. Anytime you might stumble, I'm like, that's an edge case. He doesn't, he's phenomenal. Like that's just the thing. We're gonna prop him up. He's gonna do better. You're gonna do better, and at least like kind of this closed loop feedback of I think you're gonna do better. It causes you to do better, and then when it comes back to me, like I knew Bobby was awesome, just like I thought, and those excellent. Those people who perform excellently are going to do better and better, and that happens similarly with people that like, man, I saw Pete this one day, and like, Pete, this guy, he just reminds me of like this lazy person I used to work with, and I think negatively, Pete doesn't feel that love coming from me anymore. He might perform even more poorly, and that comes back to me like I knew Pete this whole time, just like I thought. Pete was kind of like the lazier guy, and I hope for the best for this guy, but that Pygmalion effect, like robots aren't being able to synergize and work with other people and make even more interesting and powerful products. I don't think we're anywhere close to having robots being able to replicate that. So I think we're in a pretty good position there.
When have you seen products and companies fail?
Most of the time, that's when companies rest on their laurels, I would say. Imagine 9 years ago, where you're going into like this cutesy little antique store, and you're going to go buy something. There's the most boring point of sale machine sitting there, an uninteresting product that I challenge any product. And by a quick aside, I challenge any product manager to stretch themselves and work on boring brownfield products. Of course, everyone wants to work on autonomous driving and AI and machine learning, all the sexy things out there, but I truly respect someone that can go to the billboard industry and like reinvent that. So like where I see products fail is like point of sale machines haven't changed in years. They're like, we're making money, we're just gonna keep pumping these things out. Then along comes a little startup 9 years ago, who's now worth $3.3 billion, or they have 3.3 billion in revenue, that took these point of sale machines and completely reinvented them. That hindsight is 2020. Square, when they came along, they're like, can I make these mom and pop machines super dead simple, an elegant experience, easy to use, portable? Like, why are we still using these old kind of janky machines? So those previous kind of point of sale companies were resting on their laurels and like, I'm gonna let hopefully lightning might strike again. And I would say that's kind of like certainly one of the, like we know all the greats. We know the Amazons and the Apples, and I don't want to focus on them. I want to can we learn from the ones that are failing? If not, they've already failed. The Barnes & Noble, their share price went from $28 to $6.50 right now. Aeropostale, Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They filed for Chapter 11 in 2016. J. Crew closed 50 stores. Neiman Marcus is $4.8 billion in debt, and I'm kind of targeting ones that like Amazon's stealing their lunch. And as of yesterday morning, Macy's just announced that they're closing 125 stores out of their 680, and they're laying off 2,000 employees. Macy's, they're like they're a bulwark, they're an anchor in the industry, and they're trying to go through this kind of last-ditch effort. They're calling it Polaris. It's a 3-year plan that they're aiming to turn around their business. Part of it is reduce how many stores that are out there, provide quality fashion. They have a couple different metrics that they're going by to try and turn it around. But these are companies that maybe like I used ones that are in the retail space, and they didn't adapt as quickly as they could. They didn't move into have a mobile first experience or have an online experience, and they didn't adapt their industries. And there's like, I can kind of sit back and rest on my laurels. And I challenge all my product managers to take an iterative approach and not hope that lightning strikes twice. Speaking of challenges, what are the biggest challenges you face as a product manager building future forward products? That's a good question. I would say I'll give you two big challenges. The one that I have is fail more often. I don't know if it's myself or just us as a society, we're ingrained in having this fear of failure. I had previously worked at Hitachi, another company before this, and it's very kind of ingrained in the culture, in Japanese culture, to be like, everyone needs to say yes before we agree to a thing. There's a lot of shame if we fail, and it looks bad. We can't have that. We've got to be really cautious and comfortable, and everyone, we're going to move a lot slower, but we're not going to look bad when we all, succeed just a little bit. But I want to stretch for kind of harder and more challenging things. And a lot of people have said this better than me, but being able to fail fast and being able to pivot is critically important. And that's hard. That's a hard mentality to take. You get older in life, you can't take those hits on the chin anymore. And I really respect folks like the Richard Bransons of the world. I was listening to a phenomenal entrepreneurship podcast, and they were saying there should really be 3 qualities in a phenomenal entrepreneur or product manager. And that is, you should be a dreamer, you should be a doer, and you should be a critic. You need to have all 3 of those. The dreamer is the person that can think of those amazing ideas, that can brainstorm, what if we have this, 5 to 10 years from now? What's holding us back? And that's the person that's not afraid of failing. And then the doer is okay, can I actually go out and build this thing? Can I go into the world and execute? And then the critic is, all right, is this really something that people want? Can I take a critical approach and looking back at this, let's actually pressure test this. So not being afraid to fail, but also being able to go out there and build the thing that you want to build. So I told you I'd mentioned 2. And the second one is, so one is being afraid to fail. And the second one is when you get comfortable with the product, and it's an alluring trap for product managers. You want to defend your product to the last iota of strength that you have. It must be the best thing. I have all this, the sunk cost fallacy. I put all this time and this energy. It has to be great. It has to be this thing that I truly love. But at some point you need to be able to step back from your product and apply that kind of critical thinking. Is this what is going to make us succeed when we go into the wild? Is this what people really, really want? And I would say 2 of the biggest challenges is having that. And it's a challenge because as a product manager, you want to fight for your product at every chance you get, but you really need to be able to pivot as well. So getting emotionally attached is one of the biggest challenges. And the second one is that fear of failure.
You are listening to Industrial Bytes, a collection of bite-sized conversations from the industry world. Honeywell Forge is an enterprise performance management for operation technology that will improve the way a variety of companies collect, analyze, and act on data from their operations. The software solution leverages Honeywell's more than 100 years of experience in asset and process control technology and will transform the way work gets done by owners and operators of buildings, airlines, industrial facilities, and other critical assets and infrastructure. We welcome your thoughts, opinions, and feedback. Leave us a comment and we will be sure to respond. To learn more, go to honeywell.com. Thank you for tuning in.